Okay, I'm going to tell you a completely different story. I'm Wendy Díaz, and I'm coming from this university also in North America. It is part of North America, Mexico, I should say. Sometimes we forget that, but it is. And, well, the University of Guadalajara is in Mexico. Mexico, as you can see, is almost 120 million people. And, well, before I start with what is university, I really want to thank you for the invitation and the possibility to be here under the name of my university. We have, if you don't know Mexico, more than tequila and mariachi and beaches and all that, is 69 national languages that we have. And the numbers for our students enrollment is 25 million for basic education, more than 5 million for high school education, and almost 4 million in higher education. And that gives us another picture, probably different from some others. Jalisco is a state where I come from originally. The tequila and mariachi is from Jalisco. It's a town just next Guadalajara. So whoever have not been there, please just come and enjoy that. Now, we are not just that. Jalisco became some kind of like a Silicon Valley in the last 10, 20 years. And it's part of the North America region in terms of automobile parts. So it's part of the route that goes there. And that means that we have industries like the electronics and software. And lately, the industries related to creativity. And we have this project that we were asked to work with by the MIT about the Ciudad Creativa Digital. Therefore, we are creating schools and we are just moving the whole city in terms of becoming a creative city. And there's one big reason why this particular project is so important for us. Now, as you can see, we also have lots of industrial parks. We have also the other creative industries going on at the same time. And the university is actually in charge of something called the Centro Cultural Universitario, which is a cluster dedicated to culture and creativity. So we are in that part. Now, it is also the second largest university in Mexico and is a public one. And I always had problems saying these numbers, so if you can help me, please, to say them in English. Total students of the university is 287,716. That's a macro university, and therefore the implementation of anything here is a problem. But we have to solve it every day. Now, if we talk about students in higher education, it's 127,000 or less. But we are also in charge of almost 60% of all the high schools of the state, which is, again, 160,000 students. 16,000 professors and 10,000 staff. With those numbers, you can imagine that trying to solve a problem like this is not an easy task. And of course, we, as a community, we became 20 years ago into a network because we were thinking about taking development to the regions of the state. That meant that we opened campuses all around the state. All these parts of Jalisco have at least one campus that has undergraduates and graduate levels, programs. And also, well, we are in charge of these 53 high schools with small models and 27 extensions. That mean nothing else that if you have been in Puerto Vallarta, 1 hour from Puerto Vallarta is one small school that has these students. And of course, connectivity and logistics to get there is not easy either. Anyway, we have subject-specific university centers and regional university centers who were made more for keeping maintaining their people and not, well, giving them more opportunities in the regions. Because Jalisco normally exports people to US, specifically California. Therefore, the idea was to create development in order to avoid migration, in fact. So that was the view then. Now, of course, with that social responsibility, I had to go to some other problems that normally a university like this in Latin America faces. Argentinians that are around there might understand or might have the same problems, which is the implementation of everything, especially in these isolated towns, the low connectivity that we have in some parts. It's not easy to get there. We have a low profile of teachers, and a need, of course, to avoid more migration, which, you know, sometimes we don't have a good relationship with some of our neighbors. It's just sometimes. Well, the challenge for the university like this is the integration too. Something that it was said in this some moments ago. The integration with other levels, the integration between high schools and higher education, and therefore we started some years ago with a particular project that helped us to understand and to work with particularly creativity and critical thinking. And it became not because it was something related to, in general, creativity and skills like this. It was actually because we had a problem on English. In my particular case, I'm in charge of that. And the problem was that our levels of domain were really low. Therefore, we tried to do some new formulas. In those formulas, we found that we could probably transform not only English, but also the way we were learning in high schools, and therefore the possibility to also influence higher education. In this case, we work with, thanks to the Finnish, where is the Finnish? I saw her somewhere. Oh, yes. Thanks to the University of Jyväskylä, we started a cooperation and we worked with phenomenon-based learning and content and language integrated learning that made us, of course, work in a transversal learning process through the curriculum and, of course, working in the phenomena that are approached to different subjects. There was a revolution, of course, in the high schools because it was never before, there was never before a project where professors of different areas could work together into a project. And it was never, there was no other occasion where students were asked about what to do and how they wanted to do it. So this became a trajectory for some students that was completely transversal. And this integration of different subjects created a learning experience where students look at the phenomena from different real-world and academic perspectives. We do have the teacher of arts, the teacher of mathematics, maybe technology, and English too. And they developed this systems thinking and interdependency between them to create something. What products they create, of course? Arts. Graphic novels, paintings, music, videos, sometimes green gardens, etc. Now, it also was connected to another project that became completely English, which is this one that I'm presenting here, which is materials that are also CLIL and project-based learning for students in order to also create some skills, not only English. The idea is that the students don't have an English class. What they have is the use of a language to learn content, and in particular to do something that it is nice for them. So this, for example, is the wow effect, and what we're looking for there is help them to know how to do some project planning and the creation of some products there. The first one was dedicated to what is a hero, and we were really worried about this little town thinking that maybe the narco guy in town could be their hero. So we were really concerned about that. We took care of that. And finally, 90% of them thought that their mothers were the heroes. So they represented their mothers with art. That was really successful. And then we had the second, which is music. So again, the students had to create some instruments and then to recreate a bilingual song that also had something related to a very positive effect on or a feeling that they were having. And examples like that were like songs that were composed by girls who are afraid of going out late at night because they cannot walk easily. You know that we were having a problem on security. Therefore, in the songs, it was quite clear how feared they were about that. So in this case, we did some kind of creativity. And at the end, the third one is My Life Journey, where they go through their own process, their life, where they want to be, who they are, where they're coming from. And they reflect and they we try to make them aware of what's going to happen with them and their lives and what they have to work on their own skills. We're working now on something related to, or is named happiness. And the next one is courage. And what we're trying to do is to help them to develop certain skills. But we have created a problem, maybe, because now these students are going to get into higher education, and we need to confront that. There are some times that we have been working with teachers in higher education about content and language integrated learning. And for our surprise, the pedagogy was not present for any one of the teachers there. Most of the teachers are hired because they have PhDs and because they are specialists in their areas, but they don't have an education in pedagogy. So it is a fact that it is a problem for a professor like me that teaches negotiations, how to teach negotiations in a modern way, where my students actually can understand, or at least I could help them to learn. Therefore, our courses have gone through there, and we have worked the last years in the development of those skills. Somehow, you can imagine that the amount of professors is not easy to cover through certificate on learning center pedagogies. In mentoring, for example, we try to create a model on fostering creativity and models on other training courses. Also, we have some congresses about good practices, and at the end, a model on creativity in this official program. And of course, we have problems. Most of them regarding incentives for professors is not easy. We have to write, we have to publish, and at the same time, we have to teach. And the time that takes us to prepare a class in order to improve creativity, for example, for students, is not something that it is in the incentives. So it has to be something that at some point, policymakers have to be very clear about that. We give incentives for publishing, for being in a national system of researchers, but not for being a very good teacher. Now, we do need to develop strategies to assess the outcomes of these skills that we have generated. We do need to train more teachers. We do need to create new and more flexible curriculums because they are really not allowing us to do new things. We need to redesign our environmental learning spaces. We still have these rooms where we can do anything. We can just do anything that we want. We cannot move chairs. We cannot use much technology. We really need to reform that completely. For the university, the participation on this project would mean to network with other universities that have probably, as you already found, some mechanisms to evaluate the outcomes, and also represents the opportunity to implement in a more successful way what is the plan on the next 6 years about creating improving the interdisciplinarity in the campuses. Because we do have solving in high schools, but not in higher education. So we could be able to get into this new century. This is one of the products of the guys in high schools in San Jose del Valle, Tlajomulco, a place that it is known lately by BBC with very bad news about what happens with this disappearance of our students. And these are girls that said that their final project about my life journey was represented by butterflies that wanted to fly. So, well, thank you so much.